Welcome everyone to the full council for Seaford Town Council today, Thursday the 14th of November 2024. So I want to thank all members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us for our meeting today. Please be aware that the council is video recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would also like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off or set to silent. If councillors have any concerns about hearing or seeing others in the meeting, please let the chair or council officer know straight away. The fire exits are clearly marked, with 2 in this room being the closest. The assembly point is the flat grass area by the patio. Please remain seated unless you're invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. The toilet facilities are out in the corridor. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person. Due to the number of public present, please avoid repeating comments already made by others in the interest of keeping the meeting on track. I will have to prompt you to move on if comments are repetitive. When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show you wish to speak, and I will invite you to speak. I've actually been told that you are numbered, so I will call numbers. If you are comfortable standing, please do so. You will be provided with a microphone to ensure that you are heard across the room. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking. I would ask that participants look to leave the meeting, wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. And to all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order. I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the council, I would like to thank everyone for attending this town council meeting. So I will move to agenda item 1, which is actually apologies for absence, and I will ask officer to list those.
Thank you. So we have apologies from Councillor Horo for a personal commitment, Councillor Buchanan for personal reasons, Councillor Rutland as he's unwell, Councillor Clay for personal reasons, Councillor Walraven who is unwell, and Councillor Ruth Sturton for personal reasons. And I believe Councillor Lindsay Sturton wanted to make a personal statement in relation to that.
Yes, thank you, Town Clerk. Some of you already know this, but I thought people would like to know that Ruth was taken from work by a hospital on Thursday with chest pains. She had suspected angina. She has had an angiogram which has turned up clear and not revealing any problems, as the surgeon doing the procedure said. Could drive a bloody bus through her arteries. And she is now at home recovering, so I'm sure you all sent her your good wishes, and those of you who make prayer part of your spiritual practice could keep her in your prayers.
Thank you. We also have apologies for lateness from Councillor Dubas.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 is disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosures by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests, as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Do we have any councillors having an interest to disclose? Councillor Foreman first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to disclose an interest in all the confidential items. I will not take part in the discussion or the vote on that at all.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ward.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have interest in items 15, 16 and 17. I will not take the time to the meeting. I will read these items on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. Now, officers have collected details of members of the public wishing to speak on the way in, and you'll be invited to speak in the order that you have registered. If any others are looking to speak, we may invite you to do so at the end of the registered speakers. Please be reminded that you have a maximum of 4 minutes to avoid repeating comments made by others. So I don't necessarily need to read out your name if you know that you're number 1. Do we have number 1? Yes, you don't have to disclose your name if you don't wish to.
Hello, I'm Sarah Sinclair. And I wish to speak in relation to agenda item number 11. Seaford Head and its surrounds is one of the most spectacular areas in the South East. Its natural habitats are unique. But it has now been discovered by both British-based and international visitors and is suffering from the consequences of its popularity. Walk and Chalk was recognised in this document as a success. However, with it came a legitimisation of coaches using the bridleway, the reinforcement of an online presence and the resulting overwalking and litter, with a continuing lack of facilities to accommodate a growing number of visitors. As a community group, we have researched websites and forums and engaged with the coach drivers, tour operators and tour leaders over the summer months. We have undertaken traffic surveys over 10 days, and covering weekdays and weekends in May to October from 9 AM to 6 PM to understand who is using Chinkton Way and the bridle path. These times exclude many dog walkers and locals who have used the area from outside these hours. To highlight one day for 1 hour, between midday and 1 PM on Sunday the 21st of October, going up the hill with 57 cars, 1 coach, 2 motorhomes, 13 bicycles and 91 walkers, all using a single track right away with the obvious passing overflow parking issues on the sides and the danger to all users. Between 80 and 85% of those cars are new visitors to the area, a random fact but ascertained as they can be seen struggling to use the far unmade up side of the triangle, and regular users and locals know not to. The international influx was acknowledged as far back as 2018 in the New York Times article entitled How Asian Social Media Transformed a Quiet UK Walking Spot, and noted the resultant tragic death of a young lady who went too close to the edge and fell over. This summer has seen the growth of coaches, in particular South Korean tourists. We spoke to one coach company and they were bringing up nigh on 5,000 South Korean visitors to South Hill this year. Jay Chu, a Taiwanese pop star who has nearly 10 million followers on TikTok, posted recently a video of himself sitting dangerously close to the edge, singing a rather depressing song. On a Chinese website, Manfang Wo, with 130 million followers and a strong travel base, put the Seven Sisters as one of the top 4 destinations in the UK, all of which are adding to the increased numbers and the conflict between the protection of this unique area. Even barbecues have become a popular pastime and are wholly unacceptable, bringing with them the risk of fire and damage to the sensitive flora and fauna. We are also seeing an enormous number of visitors arriving by train. It is quite overwhelming, and having spoken to shopkeepers in Broad Street, the benefits of the town seem to be limited. Foresters is well used, but nowhere else, as the route they follow to the beach is via Dane Road and to Seaford Head via Church Street. Every week there is a newspaper or website giving this area a great place to visit due to the train access and easy proximity to London. To quote the Daily Express of Thursday the 7th of November, the incredible 12-mile walk between 2 quiet English seaside towns, a popular walking trail less than 2 hours from London, has been described as spectacular and possibly the most popular day hike in the UK. Whilst we fully appreciate the need to come up with a plan to save and use South Hill Barn, it must not be forgotten that we understand it was bequeathed by Mr Stanford Northcote to the old Seaford Urban District Council with a proviso that the land was to be used for enjoyment only. No caravans, campers or traders are allowed. It is essential that you, our councillors, understand and acknowledge the day-to-day issues of overuse, lack of traffic management and facilities. Whilst we cannot stop visitors, we need to control and facilitate them to ensure that this special area, its natural habitats and ecosystems are safeguarded for the future. Please understand that we, the residents, are here to help, not to hinder, and our interest and enthusiasm should be used as a resource for the benefit of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so we have number 2.
My name's Simon McFarlane. I'd like to talk on agenda item 13 about the cycle parking costs. Well, as a bit of background, that might help with the decisions we made. One of the places is the source. Currently, there are no cycle parking in the source at all. Obviously, as things have developed over time and things have been added to the source, especially for the younger people of Seaford, cycle parking has been overlooked as an option. So there must be an assumption that everyone there is either going to walk or drive to the source to use the facilities. Obviously, the people under 18 won't be driving. So it's, I'm sure if you cast your minds back to when you were younger, like me, we'd find that you would be, a lot of the younger people of Seaford would be using their bikes as their main source of independence, and not having anywhere to actually park your bike is a big deal, especially as they've said recently in the press that in some studies that have been done, one of the major reasons people don't use their bikes and don't use their bikes is because of the worry about them being stolen. It doesn't mention where they would go, but actually as the tennis courts were developed, they were made smaller. So there is a space available which is on the west side, next to where the base, in between the base and the tennis courts, which would be perfectly suitable for the bike parking to go. The other location, relevant for tonight, that's Seaford Barn. There again, it's very limited cycle park, and we have, it's one of the lowest sort of damage and sustainable methods of transport that could be used for reaching the barn, yet there aren't really any parking spaces there for bikes. We mentioned there's 13 cyclists earlier on, and I've tried before. And on busy days, when it's completely full of cars and you can't move, it would be an ideal way that the residents could reach that location. I've also noticed that a lot of the older residents of Seaford have started using e-bikes now, so the hill isn't a problem, but when you get there, you've got an expensive bike with nowhere to put it. And obviously that's very off-putting. Probably my 4 minutes in now, so
Number 3, please.
Good evening, Chair. I'd like to speak on agenda item number 11, the Southhill Barn project. In particular, I'd like to talk about page 34, which is the SWOT analysis, which is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Whilst acknowledging the amount of work that's taken place already, I would actually like to talk about the weaknesses and threats to this, and in relation to location, traffic issues, tourism, emergency services, climate issues, lighting, impact on the dark night skies and missing data. So first of all, we've already heard quite a bit about the location and traffic issues. At the moment there is a survey going on which may not be representative of a summer's day. The number that is obviously going up in October and November will not be the same as what's going up during the summer months. The National Trust notes that developing Southhill Barn could reduce strain on other locations such as the Seven Sisters and Burning Gap. However, from spring next year, the National Trust, which owns Burning Gap, has removed dedicated coach parking from the site as part of its adaptation to coastal change. Tour guides are already approaching Seaford Town Council about parking their cars, minibuses and coaches. However, to get to Southhill Barn, you need to drive through residential streets and past schools, and of particular concern would be Seaford Head School, with children walking between the two sites during the school day. Then moving on to climate issues. Pollution at the end of Chinkton Way is creating quite a lot of car fumes and is unpleasant and could do with some monitoring. Lighting would be essential up there if there was to be more car parking, and this could have an impact on wildlife, residents and the dark night skies. Then thirdly, footfall has already been recognised as a threat. However, coastal change has not been recognised in this report. However, Burning Gap talk quite a bit about this. And pathways being eroded with little time to recover. And we also have the natural chalk aquifers up there, which the Seven Sisters National Nature Reserve is being created to ensure that we protect our water supplies. So those are the things on climate issue. and maybe South East Water should be part of the project. Then moving on to the emergency services, should they be considered as a partner in the you're having already? The police and coast guard are regularly dealing with incident and emergencies up there, and access is already an issue along that single track bridleway. Safety planning and risk assessment is becoming essential because of the proximity to the cliffs and the number of new videos that are emerging with people dangerously close to the cliff edge. Antisocial behaviour and rural crime is on the increase nationally. How would this be managed in this location? The report states that South Hill Barn is one of the Town Council's most important and potentially valuable assets in terms of its beneficial use to the local community. This is great to hear. However, the survey that was conducted actually had an option that you could tick to do nothing at the location. For the 531 who responded, what was the result for this selection? Failing to disclose this figure is perhaps a little odd in your report. I'm sorry if this sounds negative. This is not the aim. The aim is to inform and talk with Seaford Town Council at this early stage from those who live locally and feel passionate about the area and wish to protect it for future generations. We are not trying to cause issue, we are trying to start the conversation and ask to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 4, please.
This is agenda item 3, number 11, LDC local plan. I'm reading this together with a neighbour who cannot attend this evening. We are concerned to read in the Town Council's clerk's report that the local plan will be considered by the Planning and Highways Committee. There are only 7 councillors on this committee as opposed to 20 councillors elected to represent the best interests of our town. Local plans are at the heart of the planning system and are the main consideration in deciding planning applications. They set the framework in which decisions on particular proposals are taken locally. The law makes it clear that decisions on planning applications should be made in accordance with the policies and proposals within the development plan, which includes the local plan, unless there are strong planning reasons or material considerations indicated. It is therefore very important that everyone gets involved in the preparation of planning policies and proposals within the local plan at an early stage if we want to influence how our area will develop in the future. The local plan guides decisions on future development proposals and addresses the needs and opportunities in the area. Topics that local plans usually cover include housing, employment and shops, and they also identify where development should take place and areas where development should be restricted. We would like to request that each stage of the local plan goes before the full council and the ward councillors seek the views of their constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening everyone, Madam Mayor. I'm hoping you've all had a chance to read the email Georgia forwarded to you on my behalf. Thank you, Georgia. And I have within the email provided all dates and meetings for you to check. But I'll give a brief outline now, because I am concerned regarding the agenda item 11, South Hill Barn. From Lewes District Council, there was a devolution committee on the 10th of August 2004, and there's an extract from that committee that states, the Director of Planning and Environmental Services has ascertained from Plumpton College that it does not wish to pursue its negotiations with South Hill Barn further due to the likely high level of costs required to supply basic infrastructure services. Also, following on the 4th of August 2005, from the Seaford Town Council's Planning and Highways Committee, again an extract from that meeting, the road leading up to South Hill Barn, and especially the bottom end of the road, could be a problem over ownership. This road, and I believe this is now correct, is still designated a bridle path. The increase of motor traffic using this road will put walkers at an even higher risk, not to mention the extra pollution. 1.4 of your own report, significant items of structural disrepair. Remedial roof work was carried out to prevent the roof from collapsing, but this was never long term, back in 2013-14. There was also concerns regarding the West Barn having a corrugated asbestos roof, but this will need to be checked by a professional. Planning use of Seaford Barn is agricultural. If you own a piece of agricultural land that you would like for commercial development, you will need to familiarise yourself with Class R permitted development rights. Agricultural buildings are purpose-built for housing animals or storing produce or equipment, and will likely require significant work to become fit for commercial purposes. As such, there are many elements to consider when converting a building under Class R, and these may be difficult to navigate without expensive expert advice. In theory, this is a nice idea, but in practice, a financial black hole that will always need filling in. Upkeep costs will outweigh income and will once again fall on the council taxpayer. Please look back through the history of Seaford Town Council and the good intentions of many projects. Through many different every 4 years administrations, the residents of Seaford are still dealing with the fallout. The white elephant. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 6.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Mark Brown and I'm the Seaford resident. And I refer generally to items 11, 14, 16 and 17 of the Council's agenda. The previous council was operating effectively, efficiently, non-politically, openly and honestly, and was handed over in very good financial position. It would appear that this council is not currently operating very effectively after just 18 months in office. I'll explain why in a moment. The town clerk and one senior manager resigned and another senior manager was off sick, and I'm not quite sure why. There are reports of further staff sickness and absences. Council staff appear to be operating below 100% capacity, but I'm sure it's not their fault. And it looks as though there is a recruitment problem replacing staff. The council also appears to have morphed into some kind of secret society with numerous exclusions of the press and public at council meetings, as shown on your agenda. This is only acceptable for financial and personal reasons and should not be used to hide council activities. There appears to be more exclusion in the past 18 months than in the previous council's 4-year term. I request that the council hold a referendum on the exempt and public exclusion policy as it appears it's being misused at the moment. It is the right of Seaford residents to be able to see what their council is doing and not for council activities to be hidden behind the exclusion clause. For instance, the restructuring of the council which is taking place behind closed doors. It's the interest of Seaford residents to know what council is planning during this restructure and any other activity the council is undertaking, and for residents to be able to have an input into the plans and subsequent outcomes. It would appear that council has very little interface with its residents and does not appear to want to listen to them. It seems as though council has its own agenda regardless of what the residents may need or think. For instance, the official opening of the Martel Tower toilets was delayed, as far as I'm aware, still not taken place. And also the Seaford Barn plans do not appear to include any residents' input, nor has the report been previously published. The Armed Forces Day event was also being cancelled without any input from residents. Councillors also regularly fail to answer emails from the residents. I've sent emails to 6 residents, of which 2 of them only had to manage to reply. I've also received reports from staff and confirmed by some councillors that other councillors are verbally abusing staff members and failing to treat them with due respect. This has led to the HR manager having to introduce a policy that outlines how councillors should form working relationships with staff members. Councillors cannot operate effectively if they do not have good working relationships with all staff members. Councillors should consider that the council belongs to the residents who elected them and not to the individuals they elected. It would also be good policy to present resident statements in full and not to paraphrase them in the minutes. Councillors should also allow residents to be identified in the minutes, providing permission from the resident is given. I give you my permission. Residents were not consulted about their names not being published in the minutes. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. And now our final speaker that's listed, number 7.
Hello, I'm Laura Goff and I'm reading for a resident who's unable to be here tonight. I've only just seen the speech, so I'm going to do my best. In recent years, and it's item number 11, South Hill Barn. Yeah. In recent years, Seaford Head has experienced increasing visitor numbers and media attention, as has already been pointed out in the South Hill Barn scoping and briefing document. These numbers can only be expected to grow in coming years, and a holistic plan for the whole of Seaford Head area needs to be put in place now to mitigate present and future challenges. South Hill Barn should be looked at in context of that plan. The barn does not need to become a visitor attraction in its own right. The view of the Coast Guard cottages across to the Seven Sisters is already a major international draw, bringing people to the doorstep of the barn. The immediate, I'll move that out. Both international and domestic tours are already arranged by commercial operators to this very spot. Profitable walking tours are advertised from Seaford railway station along the cliffs. The local residents regularly walk the paths around Seaford Head and live with the impact of the increasing visitor numbers every day. The residents are an excellent source of information regarding our visitors. Going forward, please include them in this planning process. They are better informed and possibly more practical about what can be achieved at the barn than those briefly visiting the area. The meeting scheduled for Thursday the 14th of November is to agree the governance plan. There is an obvious omission to the team. Where are the local residents? Seaford Town Council appears to be understaffed and finances are tight. There are local residents with professional experience in some of the areas suggested for potential uses of the barn, including running visitor centres and performance event spaces. Engage with these residents and they can help inform plans moving forward, which ideas should be pursued and what unexpected ongoing costs might be linked to others. Potentially, this could save Seaford Town Council both money and valuable officer time. Please do not underestimate the impact that local resident involvement can have. You will all be aware of the ongoing situation at the Seven Sisters Visitor Centre, where the lack of a crossing across the busy A259 is a major cause for concern. Following engagement by local residents with the SDMP, East Sussex Highways, East Sussex councillors and James McCleary, a way has now been identified for a crossing to be put in place at this location. The funding for the initial necessary feasibility study has been found, and although it will take time, a crossing will be put in place. This was achieved at the instigation of local residents, bringing all parties together to break a long-standing deadlock. Please view us residents as partners when looking at the barn and the wider Seaford Head issues. And I'd just like to add, I think the barn was left in a philanthropic way to the people of Seaford, and I think this would be a golden opportunity for the council to see the barn as a way of being a philanthropic asset rather than a commercial one. We've got commercial assets. The view is supposedly our commercial asset. This is our wedding venue. This is our funeral wake venue. The barn can be something completely different and be for the benefit of the local residents and be used in the philanthropic way that it was intended to be. Thank you.
Do we now have any other members of the public who would like to speak? We've got somebody at the back. Yes, would you like to stand? Or not? You don't have to. Thank you.
Just on the Seaford Head in general, I'd like to draw the Council's attention to the fact you've got three things going on at the moment. There's the meeting this evening about the barn. proposals. Coming up next week, but on the climate subcommittee for some peculiar reason, is the decision whether, or the recommendation, whether or not to join the National Nature Reserve, which is being proposed. There are arguments for and against that, which I think need to feed into the debate about what you're going to do on South Hill Farm. There is also, lurking in the wings somewhere, the popularity of the requirement to bring back the Hope Gap steps. That has financial implications. It also has management and control implications which are across the whole of the South Seaford Head, and whether Seaford Town Council indeed retains control of the Seaford Head estate if it joins the National Reserve. There are arguments all over the place about this. May I suggest that you defer, as I think other speakers have suggested, this discussion this evening until you all have a full picture of the whole area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to speak? Yes, someone else at the back. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm here tonight representing the Friends of the Dew Pond. Since 2021, we've been restoring the Dew Pond, which is adjacent to the South Hill Barn. We've been working closely with Seaford Town Council, the South Downs Park, and Sussex Wildlife Trust. Last year, it was discovered that there were great crested newts in the pond, as well as other rare species. These great crested newts are protected under European law, under European protection, and they are protected under the Wildlife and Conservation Act. The main feed, all of the water from the Dew Pond comes from the courtyard of the South Barn, and it is very difficult to see how you could develop that without harming the water quality or disturbing the great crested newts there. There are severe penalties for disturbing them, and I'd just like to bring that to the council's attention.
Thank you very much. Do we have any further comments from the public? Okay. Thank you very much indeed. I'll go to item 4 of petitions. In accordance with the Town Council petitions policy, this is a standard agenda item to facilitate any public petitions being presented to and noted by full council. Please note that this would not prompt a discussion on the petition at the meeting. At the moment, none have been received by officers, but are any members of the public wishing to submit a petition at this stage? No. Okay, thank you very much for that. We're going to move on to agenda item 5. So we now have minutes of previous minutes that we would like to accept. To note the following minutes, approving or not approving recommendations as required. These are listed and we're going to take them individually. The first one, 5.1, is full council on the 24th of October 2024. These are the draft minutes which are available on the Town Council's website, and they are there already. And as Chair of Full Council, I would propose these minutes, and I would seek to look for a seconder. Councillor Foreman, thank you very much. All in favour? Thank you very much. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, those minutes have been passed. The next minutes are for planning and highways. This was the meetings on the 19th of September 2024 and also the meeting on the 17th of October 2024 of the planning and highways draft minutes. I'm going to ask Councillor Borman if you'd like to propose.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will propose this.
Anyone to second the proposal? Thank you, Councillor Matthews. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. I'm now confirming that that has been passed. Third minutes are finance and general purposes for the 10th of October 2024. Again, these are available on the website. Do we have a proposer as we don't have the chair or deputy chair? Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was at the meeting. I'm quite happy to propose the minutes.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wheeler, thank you very much. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. I confirm that those have been passed. Thank you very much, everyone. Agenda item 6. Oh, sorry, personnel. I'm so sorry, I forgot that one. Personnel meeting on the 3rd of October 2024. The draft minutes. I'm looking for a proposer. Councillor Olivia Honeyman.
Yes, I propose the minutes.
And the seconder, Councillor Matthews. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. I'm going to confirm that those minutes have been passed. Thank you everyone very much for that. I'm now moving on to agenda item 6. This is the Mayor's update report, and this is to consider the report presenting the Mayor's update and details of engagements as well. So has anyone got any comments to make on the report? I'm very happy to say to you that this is quite a short report as it's just for a month, and we've had a number of engagements which have been involved in commemorations over the last month, and also involving the marking of Black History Month, and I've been able to go to some of those events, and I've also been very grateful to my Deputy Councillor Wearmouth for also attending those commemoration events, and I'm aware that these have been attended very, very well by the public and obviously very important issues. So thank you very much to everyone for your support, and really I'm very happy to then move on to someone to propose accepting the report. Councillor Meek, thank you very much, and the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Thank you very much. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. I confirm that that report has been passed. Okay, we're now moving to agenda item 7, and we're going to move to the interim town clerk's update report. Oh no, yes, we are.
Okay, thank you,
I'd like
Chair.
very much for you to take that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read the interim town clerk update report.
Okay.
I'll invite any questions or comments if there are.
So, do we have any comments? Councillor Briscoe.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to welcome the new interim town clerk and thank you for the report. It's great to have a round of what's going on. Just to pick up on a couple of points that were mentioned in the public participation, which no doubt will come through more fully later on in the agenda, but on page 15, it talks about the Seaford bar and also the National Nature Reserve proposals. Just to say that for anyone who wasn't aware, Natural England and from memory might be the National Park as well, came in and gave a presentation about just over a year ago now, and I was appointed as the outside body rep to that process. So as well as the former town clerk and the new town clerk, I've also been going along to some of the meetings of the 8 proposed lead partners for the project and keeping in with that. So that's also partly why it's coming to climate change subcommittee meeting next week. I think there's a query about why it suddenly popped up there, because it would be a good forum to have further discussion, and indeed I think as a council, whilst we're sort of finding our feet after a period of change, trying to consider things in the most holistic way possible is going to be really, really important, and using the committees and subcommittees before things come to full council is going to be really important too. So I just wanted to make that point sort of before we get onto that at another part, but thank you very much for the report. And the final thing I was going to say about the local plan, and this has also been picked up by several residents, that, you know, for example, at District Council, we have the local plan coming to full council at various stages for review, and I think it's absolutely imperative that as a town council, particularly in Seaford, with the kind of constraints that we face here, with opportunities for development and the various sensitivities that we're lucky or unlucky to have, that does come before full council. So we welcome that to come first to planning and highways and then to full council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments? Councillor DeBuss.
Just to note on point 5, page 14, the Martello toilets, I raised an issue that the bench that used to face the sea at the back of the cafe was replaced with 2 side-facing benches, and I've had residents complain about that. It doesn't form part of the cafe contract, and therefore I'd like to request that that bench is reinstated, please, and the town clerk has got details of that, and I'd like it noting, please.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments on the interim town clerk's report? Councillor Wilson.
I'd just like to give it a general reply on item 9, page 16, about the caravan parking, since I was one who picked this up and ran with it at the meeting this time last year. And I've been through my diary, and we've had 8 meetings, from phone calls to very large multidisciplinary meetings organised at District Council, attended by large numbers of people from environmental health, Neighbourhood First. Almost every single one of the meetings has been attended by the East Sussex County Council parking officer, the most senior parking officer in the entire organisation, as well as myself and Councillor Lambert, the County Councillor responsible for the seafront. So we have given this a great deal of work and attention. We have asked every single question that we ourselves and residents have put to us. Councillor Lambert has been to people's homes to ask. We have been taking almost daily emails on the subject. We are not unaware of the problems, and we have tried our very, very best to explore and have explained to us the situation in Seaford and why we can't make it better. So this agenda item by the interim town clerk is not made lightly. We have explored everything we possibly can. The difficult, and I understand that a report is going to be made public by the parking officer to clarify these issues, but that will be coming in due course. But the major difficulties for Seaford are that many seaside places do not have residential accommodation so close to the sea. Residents' parking is not the panacea of all ills that people seem to believe it is. It's guaranteed to take money off residents. It is not guaranteed to give anybody guaranteed parking anywhere near where they live. Yellow lines cannot be used for the convenience of residents. It has to be under the Road Traffic Act under very strict criteria. And simply, we do not have pay and display throughout the rest of the town. So all the issues that we have raised and all the what we thought were simple explanations and solutions are all under the banner of be careful what you wish for. And the difficulty is that every time we have tried to explore these, we have found that the answers are more difficult, more complicated, would cost a vast amount of money, particularly changing the gravel strip into hard standing, and are not guaranteed to be in any way helpful. So I can assure colleagues and residents that we have tried our very level best to deal with this. And this is disappointing, but we have made a great deal of work, we have put in a great deal of work, we have got very good working relationships, and if there is antisocial behaviour or anything else that we can use as a handle to change these regulations, we will do so. But we are not going to waste officer time in futile meetings that go nowhere. So we need the help of the public to monitor antisocial behaviour so that we can give this to the regulations officer. But at the moment we are not carrying on with meetings because everything that we have raised has been answered fully and factually and legally by the officers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Duval.
Thank you. Just on that point, camper van parking, as you know, I fed back to the District Council and said the whole of the seafront there should be cars and motorcycles only, but they didn't take that on board. I have subsequently checked with other councils in the country, and there are councils that have just stopped camper vans on the seafront, and I am in communication with one at the moment, and they have done it successfully. They've got a temporary traffic order just for the seafront to stop camper vans. There's no parking meters or anything like that. It's just if you park here and you're a camper van and we catch you, we'll fine you. That's all it is. So signage to say no camper vans and that fine. And so I will feed back to you how they have done it so you can pick that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or queries on the town clerk report? Okay, I think we've got 3 motions to consider. To note the contents of the report, to note the government's consultation on enabling remote attendance and proxy voting at local authority meetings and the encouragement of councillors to respond individually, and also to note the revised 2024-25 meeting timetable. If you're happy, I can take them all together as there don't seem to have been any further queries. Are you happy for me to do that? Okay, so I'm looking for a proposer for the report. Councillor Matthews, and a seconder, Councillor Borman. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Happy to confirm that we've passed the report. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We can confirm. I'm now going to move to agenda item 8, and this is looking at our working group reports. So at the moment, sorry. Yes, council working group reports. Sorry, I'll just go back to my full agenda. So this is a standard agenda item to accommodate reports from active town council working groups. So there are none so far being presented except the report of the Seaford working group, which obviously is part of the agenda. So we will move on to the next item, which is agenda item 9, which is the outside body representative reports. And this again is a standard agenda item to enable town councillors appointed as representatives of those outside bodies of the town council to give brief verbal updates on relevant business activities of the outside body or for note only. I'd just like to ask if any councillors look to provide a verbal update from their outside bodies. Councillor Borman, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I attended the East South KGM along with Councillor Honeyman, our interim town clerk and our deputy town clerk last week. There was a very good presentation with the police. We're just waiting for their presentation to be sent over to us, because there was a very good slide on that of a day in the life of the police. So basically, Sussex Police, how many hours and how many incidents they deal with, and it broke it down into which areas. So although we might not be seeing police out on the streets, they're spending a huge amount of time and have huge reports of so many other different things. So as soon as that slide comes through, we will get that out to all councillors, because it was very sort of informative. It was. There was so much that was there. Also, that there is a new consultation that will be coming out very soon, which will be going to the Planning and Highways Committee, because it's all on the transport needs of Sussex, and that will feed back into a government consultation that will be coming to the Planning Committee shortly.
Thank you very much. Do we have any further councillor?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and fellow councillors. Quick for the records really, a lot of you know, the councils do know about the Seaford Community Partnerships involvement with Cliff Gardens. The public inquiry in this very building on the 26th onwards of November. So it's really just for the records, but it will commence at 10 o'clock. So just to make sure everyone's aware of that. I'm sure you'll put a bit more information on the SEC websites if you haven't already done that accordingly, and various other social media, but that's when it is. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any further comments, or Councillor Meek?
Just very briefly, thank you, Chair. Just say on the outside bodies for the Seaford Head Local Nature Reserve Management Committee, which is very much to do with Seaford Head, obviously. I just want to report that we do have annual meetings, 2 meetings a year, and they're very, very well attended by all the stakeholders and representatives for everybody who is involved with Seaford Head, whether it's the bigger South Downs National Park or the smaller Sussex Wildlife Trust. So there is great engagement by those stakeholders, and they are all very concerned about Seaford Head, so just to reassure you about that, and we have good dialogue with them. The other thing is that Trees for Seaford has an amazing tree planting autumn coming up, the rest of November and December. I think we're planting over 100 trees. So if anybody feels like digging a hole in the ground and helping us, do look up Trees for Seaford, and we welcome anybody. There's training on site, and you'll be given equipment as well. So it's a good, healthy day out, and there's normally coffee and biscuits afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Any further comments or reports from our outside bodies? Okay, thank you, councillors. So agenda item 10, we look at district and county councillor update report. Again, we have an opportunity here for an update from councillors at a district or county level on business and activities that affect Seaford and the local area. Do we have any feedback from our district or county councillors? No? Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on now to agenda item 11. This is the South Hill Barn Scoping and Briefing Report. And the purpose of the report is to brief full council on the findings of the South Hill Barn Working Group and seek approval of the recommendations, and I'm going to go to our interim town clerk to present this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as the Mayor has said, this is in relation to the South Hill Barn Scoping and Briefing Report. We do have officers present tonight, Sharon Bryan, who's the Assets and Projects Manager, and Paul Cornstra, the Senior Projects Officer, who is focusing on this project. And they'll be available to answer any questions that you may have, hopefully. But in the meantime, is there any questions on the report?
Okay, so do we have any questions from councillors? Councillor Meeks.
Yes. This is obviously a very contentious issue. I would like to, first of all, thank somebody who's not here, Councillor Roger Cannon, who had been, I didn't know, on a waiting list for an operation, and this just suddenly came up a few days ago. So
Sorry, point of order. Can we address the chair, not the members of the public?
I was sorry, Councillor, I was addressing that direction so that people could hear me. If I direct that direction, some people maybe who don't have enough hearing may not be able to hear. I hope that everybody can see I'm trying to address the whole room. Anyway, point taken. Councillor Rob Buchanan, who is the chair of the Working Party for South Hill Barn, has pretty much single-handedly, I should say, but with the help, obviously, of the working group, put a huge amount of work into this report. And I do hope that members of the public who may have read it, and certainly I hope that councillors will appreciate this is an enormous amount of work which he's put into this. And I feel what it does mostly is to put the whole thing in context. Historically, right the way back to when Seaford Town Council became Seaford Town Council, and the whole of the head and all our assets were ceded to us by Lewis District Council. And I think it shows that there's been a progression over the years for trying to understand what to do with this asset, the fact that people love this asset, there are conflicts of opinion as to what to do with it, that it could be a white elephant, but also that it's an asset that if we don't use, it tends to just kind of deteriorate, or we keep on having to put money into it just to keep it like it is, but not really being used very much. So I was very fired up about this when we first, the Working Party was first created, so that we would have an opportunity to throw some ideas together and try and put this all together. I never expected that the Councillor Buchanan would put together such a comprehensive report. And I think we have to thank him for that in his absence. However, there have been lots of emails to us as councillors from members of the public. And I do understand that members of the public do want to be involved. And I think this is a great thing going forward. I do also accept that when we did the questionnaire up on the Walk the Chalk, it was something like just over 500 or 570 or something answers. And some of those answers were not from people who were residents. Although I do believe that the majority were people who were residents. But that notwithstanding, I do agree that 550 responses from a town of 27,000 people is not a huge amount. So I do think we have to bear that in mind. And I know that members of the public are concerned about the amounts of money involved in doing consultations. However, I think we all should bear in mind that what this report states is that until, and only until, the present traffic problems that we have are addressed, and also the aspect of how we would manage services if it was to go forward, this project won't progress. Now, if you do a study like that, you do need money to do it. And I know members of the public have done their own study, and I would like to refer to something that was raised, that doing a study in October isn't very good. There is another study projected for June, mid-June on a weekend, which we feel will give a balance of a winter tourist thing and also a summer tourist thing. We are not going to be able to do analysis of every bank holiday, every weekend, or every weekday. So I think we have to kind of understand that. But I do say to councillors that maybe I wouldn't be against a deferment of this decision about spending this amount of money, because I do wonder if it would be good to have a proper consultation with the public first, and to get feedback from all those people who say they have experience of this kind of thing, so that we are completely transparent, so that we do get as much feedback as possible from people who know. So I am not completely comfortable with saying we should go to stage one and spend, I can't remember, Madam Chair, is it 40,000 immediately, and then I think it's another 40 or 45,000 in stage two. But on the other hand, if you don't spend some money, you're not able to go forward at all. So I'm open at the moment. I'm not quite sure which way to think, and I would love other councillors to make some suggestions of what they feel, because I'm a little bit equivocal about it at the moment. Sorry, that was rather long, Chair, but I feel I needed to get that off my chest.
Thank you very much. Councillor
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree, there's been masses and masses of work put into this. I have to admit, I'm really concerned about spending this much money in the current financial climate. I do agree something needs to be done about the traffic, because we've probably all been up there in the summer and it's just a nightmare to get up there. It's easy just to park and walk up, or just walk because we're in Seaford. But I'd like to hear, like Councillor Weeks said, I'd like to hear what other people think as well. But I am very concerned about spending this much money on surveys and everything at this stage.
Thank you. Councillor
I've got a few points, mostly to do with emails that I've received from residents who overall have said, no, do not spend any more money, don't put this money into a black hole, we don't need a traffic survey, we know traffic's bad, we don't want any more. So there's nothing to be done with the traffic survey. All it's going to tell us is there's traffic, there's parking problems. We know this. You don't need to spend any money to know this. This report is lacking in detail. It tells us what they want to spend on a stage one. What it doesn't do is close the loop. We've no idea what the end stage is going to be. There's a frivolous remark about grants. Which grants? Where from? How much? Who's going to do it? We haven't got officer time as it is. Then there's another remark, there's nothing to say what is commercially viable. It's been proven before that nobody wants to take this on as a commercial entity. And so my residents want to leave it exactly as it is. Yes, put in some repairs to keep the barn upright. But again, there's nothing in this report to say how much that is. So we need more structure to the report, more detail, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any other councillors? Councillor Liz Dutton and then Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to echo a lot of what Councillor Meek has said, but also to perhaps make one or two other small points. As Councillor Meek has said, Councillor Buchanan, who's not here tonight, has put an enormous amount of work into this, as have others, I understand. And this is a good report. I mean, this is better than a good report. This is a great report. One of the things you find in some of the best enterprises in the commercial sector is they say no to great ideas all the time, so that they can be focused. And I'm not saying that to knock this on the head, perhaps not forever anyway, but to think about the context in which we would have to make this decision. I think these points have been made by members of the public at the outset of this meeting, but there's two aspects of context I think we really have to look at. One that was made is the context of the plans for the Seaford Head area as a whole. And I've no doubt that, relatively speaking, this fits in with them, or can be fit in with those. But the other context is Seaford Town Council assets as a whole. I mean, it's possibly not really possible or feasible in the short term, but I would love to see this decision made as part of a strategic asset management plan for Seaford or something like this. The point was made, and I don't comment on either way, that we have our commercial venue in Seaford. It's here. What are we going to, what's South Hill barn going to be? I mean, I make no comment other than that, other than to say that that's quite precisely the kind of strategic thinking that needs to be made here. I will say one thing, and I'm not necessarily going to put this forward as a motion, but just throw it out there for people to consider. But you know, the one thing I would want to at least think about funding is a traffic study. Yes, we know there's traffic. We also know we're going to have this traffic problem whatever else we do at South Hill Barn, or if we do nothing. And knowing how to manage the traffic problem would be, you know, great. I mean, it's apparently, I've heard tonight, it's, the road is listed as a bridleway. Should we put up bollards? I don't know the answer to that, and just knowing that there's traffic doesn't tell me the answer to that. I'm not putting it forward as a motion, but just as a matter that other councillors might want to consider in their reflections. I mean, should perhaps a limited traffic study be the one thing that would be fundable at present?
Thank you, Councillor Sturton. Councillor Lord.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the public. Thank you, members. We've got a problem here. The biggest problem is the fact Seaford is a victim of some success. People come down here from all over the country, particularly from the south east of England, in Sussex, and when the members of the public mention the fact it's on TikTok that people come all over Southeast Asia and China to come here, because it's one of the so-called pop singers. It's been filmed around here, and it's one of the 5 places to go. When we have a cafeteria or education centre, it will not stop these people coming down here. It will also not stop people living in mid-Sussex who want to come down to the coast because it's somewhere free to park. That's another subject. They come here because Seaford is such a lovely and beautiful place. We can't get away from that. It's a bit of a success. I used to be a surveyor with W.S. Atkins, which is the biggest consultancy firm in Europe. I've had a look at this place, and if I work for Atkins, they say do a condition survey and make a recommendation. Well, it's done for Atkins anymore. If I did a condition survey, my recommendations would be make it wind and watertight and leave it as it is as a feature on the south way. I feel if we actually go down and try and change it to something, the biggest problem we've got is bring services to it and get rid of the service as well. Potentially waste, which means basically assessment of some description of it. That will cost an extortionate amount of money. I feel, regards to traffic and people, we can't do anything about that. And if you've got a 5-star hotel there, it won't make any difference because the people are going to come anyway. So I feel, my view is, leave it as it is, make it wind and watertight, and perhaps do 1 or 2 events there during the summer months. And make it simple and easy for everybody. It won't cost this council an absolute fortune. I'm very concerned the way geopolitics is turning in present moments in time. There could be significant change, and it's going to affect us sooner or later, right at the bottom of the food chain. So my view is that we leave things as they are, make it wind and watertight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Welcome. Thank you for their comments, because lots of down, so they're really helpful. And I think what I want to take on board, and it's something I've noticed as well, is, as Councillor Ord says, is the popularity of Seaford, been victim of its own success. Lived in Seaford a long time. I remember going down to Seaford Head and Queens as a child. I think we'll maintain that nostalgia for a lot of people. But also I guess my concern is those people can come anyway. We need to move with the times. I think to some extent we need to make sure that it's safe for people who are visiting. I want it to be safe for the area as well, so I want to be mindful of the pollution that the extra footfall is causing and the impact on the actual area. So in terms of what the final Seaford Bond looks like, I think we just need to be mindful of accommodating those the new trends, I suppose, to speak. So when I see the Coast Guard watches on TV, I do feel a sense of pride that our town is on TV, and I think a lot of people do. But I want to be able to, whatever plan we choose moving forward, is that I want it to kind of harness that nostalgia, what we all love about Seaford, but also make it short safe for the visitors that come in.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Councillor Bishopstone. I walk Seaford Head all the time. So don't think that people up the other end of the town are not interested with what's going on up here. I also actually grew up in East Sussex and spent many years with picnicking on the bank of the Cuckmere. I want to say that it is one of those iconic places that grabs us all, whether we've grown up here or whether we're visiting. I think I want to thank Councillor Buchanan for the work that he did, but clearly he didn't mean this to be an end. This is just a spot, a place on the journey of trying to decide what to do about this. I think that I disagree somewhat with the view that we know about the traffic and we don't need to have a traffic survey, because if we were to move on this, we would need to have an official count of the traffic. No way will highways do anything with data that hasn't been collected by experts collecting traffic data. We have problems at Bishopstone Junction with traffic, and collecting data is a key issue, but it costs money to even pay people to collect the data. So, and to collect something that can then work on our behalf. Because one of the possibilities might be that we could apply for funding for a grant to help develop this area. And we need to not think that it necessarily has to come out of the council office. So and I think one of the people we've been talking about is a bid writer, employing a bid writer for the council. So I want to say that about traffic. I want to say about utilities that the lack of services up there is a frustration, particularly I think, is about the toilets. And we have talked about, we have compostable toilets that don't have a home yet, and we have talked about them, using them. They would be a stopgap measure. Yeah, people shake their heads, but if we're going to have, if we're not going to be able to stop people coming by not doing anything. Not doing anything doesn't stop people coming. And what we need is a way, really, of responding to probably the most essential service in the moment, which is, in my view, is toilets. So I would like to suggest that we think about that. And this is my way of taking these issues forward. It's not saying we are going to or we're not going to spend £40,000 or however much. It's that we need to do some more exploratory work and more talking and get more input from the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Having become a sort of semi-parking expert with so much contact with the County Council parking officer for my sins, I have discussed parking with the parking officer. Now, yet again, the difficulty is because of ownership and utilities. The military road, the concrete road up to Seaford Barn, is actually regarded as a bridleway. And the parking at the top is private parking. It has nothing to do with East Sussex highways because it is owned by the town council. So I thought this would be easy. I thought the answer to stopping very large commercial vehicles getting through, finding that they're in the parking lot and can't even turn around because there are so many cars, I thought in my naivety that we could simply put a bar, a height bar, across the top and tell people at the bottom, you won't be able to turn around. I'm told absolutely not by the parking officer. I'm told that that would, even though it is town council privately owned land, this would require a full parking review and public consultation. The other difficulty is that if you stop large vehicles going up the top and you warn the drivers soon enough, and you stop them parking on the verges, they then park at the bottom and the residents of Wellington Way and the farmers become very unhappy as well. And there is mixed ownership, very complex mixed ownership of the land down in that triangle and around Chington Way. Also, the problem is that if we were to think about paid parking at the top, height bar or no height bar, there are no utilities. We have already asked for an estimate of how much it would cost to put in a parking meter there, and it would be a minimum of £5,000 with we would have to have solar panels to do that. And that's without enforcement. We'd have to pay for enforcement as well because it is private land. So every time I ask a simple question, I get the truth, which is extremely complicated and usually quite expensive. But I do think we need to think outside the box in terms of green alternatives. I know it is possible to get up to that top up there on an e-bike because I've done it myself. What I think we need to do is look at ways of having shuttle buses or e-bikes, these kind of things, taking people up from somewhere down at the bottom and taking them up to the top, or coaches unloading their Southeast Asian fit 20s visitors and then walking up to the top and having somewhere where the coaches can go away and come back at a predetermined time so they're not polluting the environment. So I think there are ways forward, but we need lots and lots of really sensible, joined-up answers to think about this. And one size does definitely not fit all, but I'm sure there's a way forward when we think about common sense. And what we want from this is to keep as many cars and all coaches away from the barn and that view. And I think we can do it, but the obvious ones don't work.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm aware, Councillor Duval, that you wanted to speak, but that's your second time, so I'm going to ask any of the councillors first. Councillor Foreman. Councillor Bristow, did you put your hand up?
Yeah, I did, but...
That's all right. So Councillor Foreman, Councillor Bristow, Councillor Honeyman.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things this town council's been known for is our assets, and actually we have a larger income through all our assets than we have from our income from our council tax. So having this as an asset, bringing money into the town, would keep our council tax low, which is an amazing thought. But I do have concerns. I thought one of the previous administrations had looked at the cost of utilities up at the barn about 2 or 3 administrations ago, but we have moved on from there. So we do have the likes of wind power, and we do know South Downs National Park has agreed in planning a wind turbine up at Hindover, which means down at South Hill Barn, which is South Downs National Park, a wind turbine producing power actually would be agreed by South Downs National Park because there is that stipulation already. But then we do have other things. There could be a boreholes possibly in the land. We know that the Seaford golf course here has a borehole too and has helped with their water influx. But there still are other concerns. And one of the major ones, I think, that no one has mentioned so far, which one of the residents did previously, was the newts. And actually a lot of the water for the dew pond, which this council supported in the restoration of the dew pond and keeping that going, is the crested newts, because they are protected, and because of that there are huge penalties that can come to, which would be to this council. I do agree with Councillor Sturton that the traffic, we know it's chaotic sometimes, and we do need that traffic survey, because not only will it tell us, yes, there's lots of traffic up there, but it will help us in the future, whether we do anything there or not. What do we do to help, whichever way we go on this? I think we do need that traffic survey, but I think we need to think fully about where we might go further in this before we spend this amount of money. And I think more needs to be looked at this.
Thank you, Councillor Foreman. Councillor Bristow.
Thank you, Chair. Is being brave the same as being bold? I think in this case it may be and it may be not. I cast my mind back to some, not that I would remember them, but thinking about why the barn has come up time and time again in Seaford Town Council for consideration of what do we do with this wonderful area, this great building which unfortunately is falling into quite some disrepair, and the fact of the matter is it needs some financial input even just to stay standing if that's what we want to do. The do nothing still costs something. So I believe in previous years, and other councillors may sway me on this one, that in considering the asset, many different things were looked at, from a wedding venue to a wake venue to art venue, so on and so forth, all with various differing projections of income and so on and so forth. They would need significant investment. And we as a council, obviously, we run fairly commercially for a town council, but arguably our main stewardship is to our residents and to the environment up there. For anyone who doesn't know me, I grew up on Rodwell Road, that's between Cookmere Road and Fairways Road. I used to do a lot of athletics, you might not believe. Back in the day I was running up over the head almost every day, kayaking in the Cookmere, playing hide and seek in the World War I tunnels. All the nooks and crannies up there I knew. I loved that place. When I moved back to Seaford and I saw how busy it got over the pandemic, I thought, well, fantastic that people are getting out, because I knew that people who I was at school with, they didn't even know where Seaford Head was, some of them. Some of them hadn't even been to the beach. Now, that was really sad. But these days, children, families are going up there more, and you might know that in my working life, that's something I'm promoting. But we have caught the attention of the international audience, and we are a victim of our own success, to borrow Councillor Lord's phrase. So we've got a dynamic baseline. We all know that the place is absolutely besieged a lot of the time, and I can feel it right here in two different ways. So I come back to the be brave and be bold thing. I think, in order to be brave, you've got to be, or in order to be bold, you've got to be brave and face the facts. We need the facts. This, to me, this is a feasibility report, really, a sort of pre-project report of what data we need to gather in order to make a reasonable, rational, well-informed decision on how we move forward. Population is expanding domestically, travel is on the up again, Asia is getting a lot richer. I used to work out there as well. I used to do Department for Trade and Industry, trips to Taiwan, to Japan, China, all these places. I'm actually looking up there and thinking, wow, maybe there's an influx of money there that we might need to tap into to help us on our way, but I'll leave that for another day. I do think there are a couple of, first of all, I did want to thank Councillor Buchanan for leading the working group, and thank our two officers, Sharon and Paul, who've also done an awful lot of work on this. I also sit on the Seaford Head Local Nature Reserve Management Committee with Councillor Meek, who's already spoken about that. And I think for me there are a couple of things that are missing from this recommendation at the moment. And those are that I would like to see an exploration of funding options in stage 1 of the project, working with, for example, Lewis District Council, who have got a new sustainability funding projects officer, with the National Park, who I believe have already offered to help us look at this. If we do pursue going down the National Nature Reserve route, that's, you know, there are lots of pluses and minuses to bear in mind with that, but that may be a vehicle to taking a more holistic view and actually get more partners, more attention and more money on it. So I think that's missing. So what I would say on recommendation 4 is I would suggest an amendment that such a study would go in, it would need to somehow be costed in terms of officer time and liaison or potential partner input. And the other thing that's missing for me in this that wasn't mentioned very overtly, and I hope this picks up on a lot of the points from the residents, is a consultation and engagement plan. So I know councillors have heard me go on about this, having worked in stakeholder engagement, mostly for energy projects. It would be really, really important to make sure it's clear when and how we're going to consult and follow proper best practice procedures as we do that, because this is going to be, if it goes forward that far, this is going to be a really important project to get right. And that's something that, you know, whether it's me or somebody else, we'd like to help the council to do that. So that I would say 2 amendments in part 4 in stage 1, a funding exploration, options appraisal and a consultation and engagement plan. That's going to change the figures slightly. So coming to the figures, it might sound like quite a lot of money. If we don't approve this spend, we could end up here in 2, 3, 5, 10 years' time with quadruple the traffic problems. You know, to the power of 20 more visitors coming up there with no sort of organised plan. I think it would be really prudent for us to approve the request of the allocation of budget, and I'm saying those words very specifically because to allocate a budget does not actually mean one has to spend it all, and it also doesn't mean that today we decide that we're literally taking that money out of our pockets. All this would have to go into the town clerk will correct me if I'm wrong, go into the budget setting process and procedure for the next financial year and stage 2 the years after that. So in fact all we would be doing is opening the door today to say this is a possibility and this is worth exploring. Let's put this in the mix for the budgetary considerations and formulation for next year and take it forward holistically there. I know we've got issues with the steps, which I would like to see properly costed and so on and so forth. And I know, you know, there are environmental pressures. Water, for example, off-grid stuff, utilities probably going to be really expensive, and I don't even know if there's capacity at the substation, to be quite frank. From conversations I've had preliminary, I don't think there is. But, you know, I'm used to working at the forefront of tech development, and I don't think there's anything there that would be completely insolvable, apart from possibly the initial traffic stuff. But, you know, that again, pre-booking parking, perhaps. Incorporating the car park into the Forestry England scheme, where you've currently got the Seven Sisters Country Park and the Bristol Forest Abbots Wood schemes, perhaps for residents as they do in Brighton with the postcode thing. Perhaps. Let's think about this and have some ideas to push it forward, because I think if we don't, in a few years' time, we're going to be sitting here kicking ourselves from a Seaford. It doesn't want to see it over.
Thank you, Councillor Bristow. Councillor Richard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've heard and made quite a few articles, documents on this, and I was on the working group. I did get to a lot of the meetings. What mechanisms were called with, obviously with help from Sharon and yourself, Paul. Yeah, value opportunities. I don't think it's narrowed down enough at this stage. It's too wide what it's really trying to do. And I listen to Councillor Bristow, Councillor Lord and the other councillors as well. Yeah, it's a very well known site, we all know that. But I mean, where we are at the moment, this is going to solve Seaford's problems where we're sitting at the moment. And terrific views here and views over there, but it's not making money here as such. So that's another issue for another day. But it's always in the back of our mind. when Seaford Town Council took this on in 2004-5, Lewis was the council at the time of the previous owners of Seaford Barn. I think some of those reports were limited for this scope, they couldn't find some of the reports. Love to see what those reports were about. It really was a non-starter, but it hasn't really been explored enough. I think, however, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility to continue, at least get a whole year of parking. Parking surveys generally of traffic, it's the wider, it's not just traffic, it's all sorts of people who are using it. So the wider aspect of you know, the bridleway, the target at the bottom, the parking at the top, everything is the whole survey, the whole site really. And obviously that includes walking surveys as well. So that's something that was further to the mix. The utilities is a major problem. They say there's natural water up there, for example. I've never really seen that stream running. It's a shame we can't really use that water in any capacity. Finally, I will mention water chalk. Yes, great. It's a great, which is a bit of an impetus to get this going. Water chalk. I had doubts about water chalk when it was thought about a couple of years or so ago now. I sort of was pleasantly surprised, but water chalk, great event of what it was, and it conjured all sorts of images and for attractions of walking and the whole realms of this area, and it did the STC officers and councillors alike, it did conjure up all sorts of possible way forward options, but again it's all about not being narrowed down. I wouldn't like to, finally on this, I wouldn't like to be committing to like designs of what at the moment. They're definitely anywhere near that, but as our councillor says, Councillor Lord, you're still going to make sure that the property is safe for now and secure. But you cannot ignore that. So basically on balance, happy to continue with the traffic. So traffic service is wider than just traffic. I think people have realised that it's more than just traffic really, it's the whole, how you get up there by whatever means, and also obviously the utility. So it'd be worth flashing out, get those answers one for thing at this stage, but I wouldn't want to get carried on. And the wider issues, the other people around, we know with, is it Blackwood Farm? I bet that's been held up now because of the problems Eastbourne Borough Council got with their finance. The Seven Sisters Country Park down the bottom. There's all sorts of places which have barns, cafes and so on, but I think at the moment, should it be looked at on a wider basis as opposed to being us in its own right? Okay. Is that well said?
Thank you, Councillor Honeyman. Okay, I'm going to ask councillors if there are any others that want to speak first on this issue. First, yes. Councillor Meek, you've already spoken. Councillor Duval, would you like to come back? And then Councillor Meek.
Thank you for letting me speak again. I'm sure I'd like to wish Councillor Buchanan a speedy recovery. And my further point is that 27,000 people, residents of Seaford, cannot be responsible for maintaining the facilities of the tourist site. We can't expect our residents to pay for the tax, and I've actually asked our MP to go to environmental services and the tourism board to find money to pay for Hope Gap steps. And anything else you want to do, why should we be responsible for that? We don't want to be encouraging tourism because we've got enough as it is. So I don't think we should be providing toilets or any other facilities. Leave it as it is, as Councillor Lawrence already said, and just get a price for maintaining it as it is. And stop asking our residents for more council tax money to go into another white elephant and a black hole. Until we know what this project is going to cost as a whole, there should be no money spent on it, traffic or not, because what is the point? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. With all respect to Councillor Duval, I hear what you're saying, but I think we've already got a traffic problem. You can't ignore that. So I do think we do need to do something about traffic. Looking at this here, I wanted to ask the interim town clerk, if we were to vote for stage 1, would we be held to what those monies are in this text designed for, or would we be able to spend those monies accordingly at a future full council meeting? I'll tell you for why. Because I don't feel that we ought to be looking at a utilities survey until we sort the traffic out. This is what, after this discussion from everybody now, I'm feeling we have to sort the traffic first. We've got a traffic problem with the present numbers of people, and apparently there's going to be more. So if there's going to be more, we've got to sort the traffic out. And I think we don't need just a traffic survey, we need to find out what it might cost to get somebody to actually be able to, we need a consultation on how to deal with the traffic. Once we've had the survey, we need to consult. Maybe there are members of the public who know how to do this, or have those expertise, and maybe they would like to write to the working group, the Seaford working group, because this is part of our remit to deal with the traffic, if you like. I'm sure that we would be happy to receive suggestions as to how we go forward with that. But I just think that to employ a utilities survey of £20,000 and a quantity surveyor of £10,000, we maybe ought to be spending all those monies on just trying to sort the traffic out as it is, finding out what the status of the bridleway is, finding out what the the public rights of way are, finding out how we would deal with all the buses. This seems to be much more important than actually starting this project going until we actually control the traffic, which we've got at the moment. That's my feeling now after this discussion. Depending on what you say, Town Clerk, I would like to make a motion, maybe to.
Councillors are free to change the recommendations, if they see fit, and so that the motion can be changed according to what your sort of motion would be. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other councillors who'd like to make a comment at this stage? Or have we reached the point where we want to consider the motions that are before us? Okay. So, yeah. So I'm taking.
I would make a counter motion.
Yes. Okay.
I would make a proposal for a motion. Chair, if I may.
Would you like? Yes.
Well, I don't. Sorry, I'm on the hoof now. I haven't really considered this, but I'm not happy to just spend the money or to allocate the money for this. Notwithstanding what Councillor Bristow said, we could allocate the money. Maybe we could allocate the money, but we need to decide to spend it on traffic initially. Not all of it necessarily, but as much as we need to on traffic and a consultation, I believe. But if you say it doesn't matter how we do this, designated, then we could allocate £40,000 if need be to consult on a traffic survey and to consult on how to deal with all the traffic that might arise. That's quite a big consultation, I would suggest.
I think it would be feasible for you to change recommendation 4 to say that you request officers to allocate a budget of up to £40,000 to fund and then list what you wanted them to fund. There's no reason why you couldn't do that. And it would mean that the budget would be spent of up to £40,000, but it wouldn't necessarily mean that much was going to be spent if it didn't come to that much. That's feasible.
Councillor Lord and then Councillor Honey.
I just assumed, quite rightly, that Councillor Weirman had informed the committee that she'd explored every option available at the present moment in time with regards to parking, the bridleway and the car park at the top. So if we explore those avenues, and I'll give to the hat off to Councillor Weaver, you've done an absolute worked the socks off with regards to parking in Seaford. If Councillor Weaver has put so much time and effort into trying to resolve a parking issue, and we know there's different parties involved, I would be strongly opposed to allocating money as a survey rather than getting a solution to say you can't park here, you can't park there, there's a restriction here, there's a restriction there. That to me would be money better spent rather than doing another survey. A survey takes 12 months, it comes in, we do another survey. So I know Councillor Mick is alluding to, and it's quite right. We're having surveys after survey. The simple fact of the matter is, I'm going to allocate £40,000 of rate-based money in Seaford to another survey, or a feasibility, or not. That's what's on the table tonight. That's what we've got to agree on one way or the other. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Olivia Hunter.
I was going to say about if traffic is the main issue, but having now heard what Councillor Lord's comment has just been, that if, as Councillor Weirmouth has already done loads of research on this as well, what information do we actually have to give to professional people to deal with the parking is now my question. I know it's already been talked about earlier on, but I just want to check that, because I'm still really concerned about spending. The key thing seems to be traffic at the moment. I agree with Councillor Lord that we need to make the barn watertight and windtight. That's really important to do, because you know, we've all been up there, we've seen our art exhibitions, and it's lovely. I remember being shown the barn years ago when I first became a councillor, with the potential that was there, but it was always utilities was an issue. So traffic is obviously the key issue. If we can just get that resolved, as far as I'm concerned, before we start spending lots and lots of money on something that we might not need to spend.
Okay, we're going to Councillor Bristow. Would you like to come back?
You know in Dragon's Den when they say go and talk to the wall, I'm like going to council a meet, go and talk to the wall and come back in a moment. But when you're doing a consultation, yes, you can have survey after survey after survey. We've had a very preliminary survey which got circa 500 responses. That's better than none, but you actually need to have a proposal to consult on in order to have an effective consultation programme. What we need is a report to scope up what's possible up there. Yeah. We need to know an options appraisal for utilities, renewable generation, what could then feed into different parkings. I mean, the way I'm seeing this is that we started off looking at the barn explicitly, and we've now taken on, you know, we've identified that there is this beast of parking which is growing up there, developing more heads and getting more complex. And I'd like to put a positive spin on it and say that by looking at the barn and using the barn as a focal point, because the barn could generate energy, channel water, to some extent have a commercial potential, even if it's just the concession that we've got up there. It's that vehicle and that springboard to focus things with the parking. So I think if you just deal with the parking and don't deal with the barn, you're not going to be looking at things like if you need energy to, for example, have some sort of smart system for parking up there, so on and so forth. You're going to miss opportunities. If you narrow down too much at the beginning of a project, you're going to then miss potential solutions that might be able to come and cover more. So my personal view on this is to approve phase one. I mean, what hasn't been done explicitly in this report is to have a proper sort of project plan with stage gates and say in order to move on to this part you need to have passed that gate and so on and so forth. So in an ideal world we would have had that. Obviously the council's been very understaffed for various reasons recently and so on and so forth. So this is great with what we've had. And I would reiterate that, you know, just by us, if we were to pass this today, it is something which would go into the budgetary considerations for next year. There's, in the report it says 7,000 and something of this year's budget that we're spending on the traffic survey that's already underway or about to happen, and we've identified that we want more done in the future. I suggest we get some proper parking consultants, of which there are in the country, and start talking to other organisations that run places, you know, Historic England, Scotland, blah blah blah, because there are places which, you know, I mean on the extreme, there are places which don't let you drive to places, and you know, I think we need a proper options appraisal in order to then know where to go. So, you know, I was just sort of saying to Councillor Reid quietly, maybe we need to sort of combine our thing. And yes, traffic is obviously a focal point. I think the officers under the interim town clerk can certainly guide the focus of this to the traffic and to those potential sticking points. And if my understanding is correct, you know, just if we approve this now, it doesn't mean that we've automatically spent the money. The money will still be spent prudently and in a way which, you know, unlocks future considerations. And if we hit, sorry for the pun, a roadblock, then we don't need to continue. But we do have a growing problem, and whether we do what we do with the barn or not, we're going to have to look at the traffic, but more than that, we're going to have to start thinking about how we're going to fund our management of the Seaford Head estate into the future. We've got the pressures of climate change, coastal erosion, increased tourism, how we're going to do responsible and sustainable tourism up there with the growing numbers. We've got all these pressures which are just bearing down on that hillside and on the residents who live nearby. And if we do nothing, that's not going to go away. So, you know, I don't even really, you know, I mean, I would like to see an exploration of funding options with it, a consultation engagement plan. I think those need to come early on, along with the traffic stuff, which we've identified as a potential stumbling block. But I think that's probably under delegated authority of officers to do, perhaps. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to ask our officers to just respond to some of this information. We've also been very heavily involved in the preparation of reports today. I don't know, Paul, whether you want to say anything. You've been working very closely, I know, with Councillor Buchanan on this work.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, councillors, and residents, etc., for what you just said. I mean, it's very interesting when you're close to a project, as I have been with Rod. You know, and Rod's very much a detail sort of person. You get right into the detail, and it's not until you sort of sit back and listen you think, oh, actually, no, there's some good stuff coming out of this, which we hadn't even, to be fair, really sort of crossed our minds yet, as hitherto. So I think, my personal view is that we should definitely continue with the traffic surveys and utility surveys. I think they're, you know, we haven't really, as you all said, you know, we have a traffic problem. It's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse. So we've got to deal with that, whatever we do. The building itself has issues. It needs more work's done to it. There's a big price tag to that. We haven't even mentioned that here, but there is that to think about as well. I think there's, you know, I think councillors have mentioned the more holistic view about what happens at Seaford Head generally. I think, you know, by the virtue of the fact that we've already discussed the project in broad terms with, for example, Natural England, National Trust, South West National Park Authority, etc., then, you know, and the feedback we've been getting from them is helpful and positive. So my personal view would be carry on with the survey, carry on with the traffic survey. There's one underway at the moment. We're revisiting it in next summer, so we'll get a sort of view on off-season and in-season. I think by then it will be, you know, much busier, as we know the trend is up. You know, there's no doubt about it. And maybe, yeah, let's just focus on stage one for now. Allocate some budget towards that. Maybe put stage two on hold for now, and just focus on the traffic and the utilities. That would be my take on it.
Thank you.
I think, I think Councillor Bristow's point about exploring funding earlier, I think there's merit in that, and merit in the consultation and engagement plan as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's my sort of take on it. So,
thank you very much,
okay.
Paul.
Yeah.
Sharon, did you want to make any comments at all?
No, I think Paul's covered a lot of the points that the residents have made here today.
Yeah.
The
councillors as well. And if you're going to look at allocating the budget, and that's something that we can carry on working with, still with a working party, if you wanted to put that in place to councillors and officers to work together and have a steer on stage 1.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your input. So we kind of bring it back together now, because this has been a fantastic discussion, I think. Thank you everybody for all your inputs from the beginning, from the residents and also from the councillors. I think it's been a really well managed debate. But we need to go to the motions.
We have, there is effectively an amended motion.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So motion number 4 needs to be voted on as to whether or not we need to amend that motion to add to the end of number 4, furthermore for officers to identify and include a cost in the budget for the study of funding options and a consultation and engagement plan, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
So we need to vote for that to be amended before we then vote for whether or not we vote for it.
Okay, so I'm happy to take each recommendation or each motion separately. Okay. But I'll do the amendment first, just so that you're all getting it. So the recommendation for 4 is to request officers allocate a budget of up to £40,000, which you want to say £40,800 to fund.
Say 40,000.
I think we'll just say 40,800. But then we're going to add in to fund.
Furthermore, for officers to identify and include a cost in the budget for a study of funding options and a consultation and engagement plan.
Okay, do you all understand that? Do you want us to repeat it?
Can you repeat it?
Yes, can you repeat it?
So,
go to the whole thing.
Recommendation number 4 is proposed to be amended to request officers allocate a budget of £40,800 in the 25-26 financial year to fully fund stage 1. Furthermore, for officers to identify and include a cost in the budget for a study of funding options and a consultation and engagement plan.
Sorry, point of order, initially you said up to.
I think the Mayor would rather not have the other in there, or would you rather have the other?
I think you mentioned the up to.
Okay. I'll repeat that again then. So number 4 is proposed to be amended to request officers allocate a budget of up to 40,800 in the 2025-26 financial year to fully fund stage 1. Furthermore, for officers to identify and include a cost in the budget for a study of funding options and a consultation and engagement plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. The 10,000 under quantity surveyor, what's that person doing, please?
Sorry, we're not talking
Well, it's in the same part. Quantity surveyors in there, we haven't really talked much about that now.
That's number 5, bricks and roof, about that.
It was something in stage 1.
Sorry, okay. Thank you, Councillor Henman. I'm going to go to Paul, the officer, to just qualify that. Thank you.
Curious, cost, analyses costs of building works. I mean, that could be put down the line, that can be deleted for now.
Yeah, QS is a quantity surveyor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could be, you could do without it now, that's what I'm saying, basically.
Okay.
Just focus on the traffic and utilities.
We need to say £10,000 out of the 40,800.
Okay, so we're now amending.
Stage 2.
With the officers identifying the specific spend in the budget, would you then not have delegated authority to decide? Do we need that in the amendment as well?
So we're going to reduce the budget to up to 30,000.
You put forward it and give the officers the authority to decide what we spend on.
Yeah.
It's called part of the budget.
Yes,
So recommendation 4 remains as I agreed out on the last time.
Lovely. Okay.
Councillor Bristow, you haven't asked for a second.
Could I have a second? Councillor Taylor, excuse me, can we not take these in order, please?
We need to take the amendment first before we then vote on the.
Because if we don't agree to point 3, then we don't need to move on to point 4.
I think it's normal practice that if we've got an amendment on the table, we vote on the amendment first, whether that we agree on the amendment before we then can work through the recommendations.
If they don't. Okay, so we're going for point 4. We have a proposer, Councillor Bristow. We have a seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour of the amendment? Okay. All those against? And any abstentions? Okay.
It's carried as an amendment.
So it's carried as an amendment.
No, we need to go through.
I'm going back now to the first motion, which is to note the contents of the report. Do I have a proposer for that? Councillor Foreman, a seconder, Councillor Meek. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? That is carried. That motion is carried. Motion 2 is to adopt the governance model. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bristow. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sturton. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. It's still carried. Motion 3 to agree that the project progresses to stage 1. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bristow, and a seconder, Councillor Foreman. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? That's motion carried. We've done motion 4. We're going to now do it again.
You need to vote on the version that has now been amended.
Yeah. Do you want to read that back out again, please?
So the one that is now number 4 is to request officers allocate a budget of £40,800 in the 25-26 financial year to fully fund stage 1. Furthermore, for officers to identify and include a cost in the budget for a study of funding options and a consultation and engagement plan.
Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bristow. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion is carried. And then motion 5, to request officers allocate a budget of £40,000 for stage 2 design team consultants, £10,000 in 25-26 financial year and £30,000 in 2026 to 2027 financial year. Do I have a proposer?
Sorry, can I make a suggestion that actually that doesn't happen and that then comes back to a full after stage 1's been progress?
Yeah. Can I make a proposal for an amendment kind of off the back of that? Because if you look at the detail, we've got, at the moment, sorry, I should be standing up, 10 grand in the 25-26 financial year, which would need to come into this budget cycle. However, we've got a projection of 30k in the 26-27 financial year, which I would imagine might change after the stage 1 anyway. So, sorry to be a pain, but I do think that it would be a good idea to split that and just allocate the budget which is tied to the next financial year at the moment, and just recognise that there will, if it progresses to stage 2, there would be further need in the future. But I think at the moment, to sort of honour the spirit of where we're going with this, it's a step-by-step thing, but in order to enable it to go forward, we would need to split those two sums. Do you want me to say that in one sentence?
Just give me 2 seconds. Okay, so I'm Town Clerk's going to read out an amendment for motion 5.
We believe that the amendment proposed is for recommendation 5 to be rewritten to say, to request officers allocate a budget of £10,000 for stage 2 design team consultants in the 2025-26 financial year. Is that?
Yeah.
You need to propose and second with that amendment.
So can we have a proposer for that amendment, please? Councillor Bristow, can we have a seconder for that amendment? Please. Councillor Taylor. Okay, so all those in favour of the amendment? Just 2. Okay.
It's going to delay if we don't do that.
So, all those against?
So we go back to you.
So we're going to go back to the original 5, and we're going to go for that.
Sorry, I propose to amend it that section 5.5 was taken off the table, so we do stage 1, and then it all comes back to full council before anything on stage 2 is done. That was my proposal, first of all.
Okay, so we have a new proposal for stage 5, which is that no further action is taken until it comes back to full council, following on from stage 1. Or words to that effect. Is that, are you happy with that?
Yeah. Okay,
propose that amendment.
Right, so I'm proposing that amendment for 5. Is that from you, Councillor Gorman? Do we have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Olivia Honeyman. All in favour? Okay. All those against? And any abstentions? Okay, so that amendment has been carried. Now we're going to vote on that motion.
And just to clarify, the wording that we're proposing is to propose that no further action is taken until stage 1 has been completed, and then this matter comes back to the full council for further consideration.
Do we have a proposer for that motion? Councillor Gorman, do we have a second? Councillor Dubar.
Before we vote on that.
Sorry?
Before we vote on that.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I'm just a bit concerned about the precise wording. I mean, that it wouldn't prevent us doing something if the roof fell in or something.
Yes.
If the motion says to do no further action, we kind of...
That's on stage 1.
Stage 2 is design.
Okay, fine.
Okay, hold on, please.
I have a query.
I'm just taking advice.
Except for emergency maintenance. Say for emergency
It's not preventive. Okay, just holding on to those. Hang on a minute, everyone. So we have had a bit of a discussion here. We've amended the amendment.
So, the amended amendment now states at number 5 to propose that no further action on this project is taken, with the exception of routine maintenance, until stage 1 has been completed and comes back to full council for further consideration.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Bristow.
Thank you for allowing me a query. Page 22, stage 2, the £10,000 for design team. This follows the 2 traffic surveys. Surveys can only ever give you data results and potentially make some recommendations. Does the design team element incorporate the potential to design something to help alleviate the traffic. If it does, and we don't vote this through, you would be bound to delay this until the following financial year 26-27 in order to make progress on the traffic. If it doesn't, and if the design team 10K pertains solely to the building, then that's a different story. What I don't want us to end up in is a position where we go by some stage 1 and stage 2, which are arbitrary, and we delay anything to deal with the traffic, which we know is the hot problem.
Okay, Councillor, hang on a minute, can I just stop a response to that from the interim town clerk?
In answer to the question, we wouldn't be bound to have to wait until 26-27 if we brought it back to full council at any point. Full council could then vote to.
Even if we didn't have the budget for it approved?
No, it would have to be, the council would have to decide that it was taken from reserves.
Thank you. Okay. So, given that response, do we still have Councillor Honeyman?
Yes, following on what Councillor Bristol said, yes, I mean, it depends what you mean by design. Design of the whole site, design of the building, design of toilets, design of water, design of whatever. So I think that needs to be clarified really, what design really means. So that's what I'm... The other thing, I'm being slightly redundant here, when it says has to go to full council for consideration, then they go via community service on route, of course, because that's what community service is for, isn't it, to pick up some of this, if it has to, or does everything from this project go to full council, or can it go to community services? Because that's where we can have a long discussion like we're having tonight. You see, you could argue that some of this could have gone to community services. So I just, when I say ultimately, probably it would go to full council, but it could easily go via community services, couldn't it, this particular project? Thank you.
Councillor Matthews, then Councillor Dubin.
Thank you. Got a suggestion to make, and I suppose it's along the lines of similar to the amendment 4, in that we allocate some funds just for the financial year 26-27 to kind of, as Councillor Bristow says, that everything comes up from the surveys and we have some money put aside to kind of deal with it. So, for example, the traffic issues don't have to necessarily be the amount of money that's here, but certainly some money, just so that we've got some money to do something with, you know, if it's bending the roof or whatever. But if it's, does that make sense? So in terms of, you know, okay, some money now, some money later, so we usually have something just in case we hit a log jam at some point.
Okay, can I respond to you?
Yeah.
Because we had an earlier brief discussion about the maintenance. The project is a project. If we have maintenance to do on an asset, we can do that anyway. We're discussing a project going forward and funding for that. We're not discussing whether we, you know, there's an emergency for that building that we would actually fund that through maintenance of the asset. So it's not that we wouldn't do anything with it because we haven't allocated a budget as part of the project.
In terms of we are to give us an option of being able to progress if we need to, and we bring back to the council with more details, but maybe we want to some money.
Okay, so we have, we've approved motion 4. We have an amendment which we still have to propose and second and vote on for motion 5.
Just to reiterate.
So I think we should, oh sorry, we have Councillor back. Apologies.
I just want to ask you, who is this design team that will create a miracle solution to parking when Councillor Wearmouth is allocating hours and hours and hours of work into coming up with a solution?
Yeah.
Why has that team eluded her? Why are we paying for something that doesn't actually exist? Thank you.
A comment from Councillor Wearmouth.
I haven't put hours and hours into parking at Seaford Barn, I assure you. This was led by the fact I took some visitors up to Seaford Barn at the August bank holiday, and usually I walk up there, but for reasons I shan't go into, I had to take a car up there, and I was appalled at what I saw. And there was a coach that was there so big it couldn't turn round. So this was a, if you like, a personal reaction to me, and we were having monthly parking meetings, and we had some spare time with the parking officer, so I can't claim a lot of credit for this. But you have to look at this in a dynamic, holistic way. And I had views about shuttle buses, of e-rickshaws, all sorts of things going up and down and stopping people so they understood. But having been in parking meetings before, you always have to think about the downstream effect. If you stop parking traffic flow, you have to think where the parking stops and what those vehicles do. So once you're in that mode and you're talking to the right people, it comes very naturally of the, if you like, the effects of what you're actually proposing. And mine was a very simple height bar. That's where it stopped and finished, really, and it led into all sorts of other things, from access for emergency vehicles. There are lots and lots of things that happen when you block something off. So I think all I would say is that a parking survey is only the start of things, and it's full, up there is full most of the time. As soon as there's a good day, the place gets full up. And what we need is to decide how we stop that and how we offer alternatives that are acceptable both to residents and to visitors. So we need a much wider feasibility study, not just someone counting how many vehicles are up there per day. We kind of know that, as you've already said. It's what do we do with the figures? What do we do with managing something that's pretty bad now and is going to get worse in the future? So I see this as a much wider, holistic problem for all of us to solve in the most ecologically sustainable way possible.
Thank you very much. Did we have any other queries? Because we need to go back to voting on the amendments for motion 5, which we're going to reiterate one more time. I've got it. Good.
So to propose that no further action on the project is taken with the exception of routine maintenance until stage 1 has been completed and comes back to full council for further consideration.
Do we have a proposer? Councillor Borner, do we have a seconder? Councillor Meek. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, so that motion was carried. Moving on swiftly. Everyone.
Councillor says just not here yet.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to start. So, we've made a decision actually just to switch a couple of items round. So we're going to move with agenda item 13, which are the cycle racks installation costs. And this is to obtain full council approval on the cost to install cycle racks. We turn to the interim clerk to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. This is a short, brief paper. This is a subject which was taken to the most recent climate change subcommittee, who don't have a budget to approve this. Being brought to full council to approve the budget of approximately £500 to pay for the installation of cycle racks, the provision of which is being funded externally. Is there any questions?
Any questions from councillors?
I propose we accept it. It's such a, we're talking £40,000 on a survey, which neither one thing. We're talking a few £100 which is going to pay for the lot of people in Seaford. I just suggest we actually, I propose this anyway. Second.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lord and Councillor Honeyman, for proposing and seconding the recommendations for this report. I'm going to take them all together then. All in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much. result that you want, isn't it, really? Okay, well done. I'm now going to go back to 12. So, okay, I'm now moving back to agenda item 12. This is the interim concessions process review, and the purpose of the report is to present full council with an interim review of the Town Council's concession process. And again, I'm going to go to Alison Town Clerk to present the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this report, as it explains, is to approve an interim concessions process review in lieu of the change in the law that's expected in February of 2025 with the Procurement Act 2023. The reason we need to act on this is because there are a number of concessions that need to be tendered in January of 2025, and we can't wait until the Act comes in. So this is an interim process that's been proposed to see us through that short period of time until we can enact the changes from the Procurement Act 2023. Are there any questions?
Okay, so do councillors have any questions? No questions? Sorry, it's all right, don't worry. Councillors, just to bring them up to date.
Thank you, sorry.
It's perfectly all right. We've actually shifted the cycle racks and just approved it, just so that members of the public could leave, and we're now gone back to agenda item 12. Interim Town Clerk has presented the report, and we're just going to councillors for questions. Does anyone have any questions? If there are no questions, then I move to take all the recommendations together. And I would be looking for a proposer for that, Councillor Duval, and a seconder, Councillor Cunningham. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Well done, everyone.
Sorry, Chair, it says point 5 is to appoint...
Oh, I do apologise. So we took the first four. To appoint motion 5, to appoint 5 town councillors to the procurement policy task and finish group. Do we have 5 councillors, any councillors who would like to be part of that task and finish group? We have Councillor Duval, Councillor Lindsay Sturton, Councillor Wheeler, and anyone else? Another 2?
We can ask the 6 people that are...
We have 6 people that aren't here. I think it would be fair to send an email out. If they don't, then I'm very happy to jump in as well, but I will resist until we've asked those 6. Okay, thank you very much. Got all that, Georgia? Thank you very much. Okay, well done. Moving on to agenda item 14, which is the exclusion of press and public. Yeah, so I'm just going there. So, agenda item 14 is exclusion of press and public. In accordance with Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion on the remaining items of business for the reasons as set out in the agenda. Thank you very much for your engagement and participation. Sorry, I need a proposer, I need a second council meet, all in favour, any, all against, Okay, so do I have a proposer for the exclusion of the public? Councillor Meek, do I have a seconder? Councillor Borman, all those in favour, all those against, and confirm about any abstentions. Okay, we have confirmed that we have just excluded the press and the public.